Hi everybody and welcome back to Learn, Share and Repeat once again with me, Peter Rising. If it's your first time on the channel, do please hit that subscribe button and the notifications bell as you do so, and you can also consider becoming a member of my growing little community here. There are lots of levels of membership for you to choose from and how you can help me to support and grow this channel. So thank you very much. Anyway, what are we going to talk about in today's video? Well, you can see I'm in my comfy chair again, so it's going to be talky time, less demo time, and I wanted to share some thoughts with you today all about what makes a good cybersecurity strategy and therefore a good cybersecurity posture. What are the things that some organizations are doing wrong when it comes to cyber security and their approach and consideration to and of it? Well, there is a lot of disjointed methodology that I see in organizations when I talk to customers about cybersecurity. Cybersecurity should be across everything that an organization is doing in regards to their digital transformation journey, if that's where they are at, or their cloud adoption, where they are on their cloud journey. And that's going to be different depending on the organization. Each client, each customer is unique. They will be at a different point of their journey. They might be still broadly on premises. They might be hybrid. They might have dipped their toe into the world of cloud, and they might not have nailed their loyalties to a particular vendor when it comes to the tools that they use. Inevitably, they're going to have a flavor of Microsoft, which is a good thing for us. We are in the world of being Microsoft consultants, broadly speaking. But there is a world outside of that. We have to acknowledge that fact. But most organizations that you come into contact with will have, as a rule of thumb, a general rule of thumb, they will have probably an Active Directory infrastructure that has gone back several years, a legacy infrastructure there in place, which is probably synchronized to Microsoft 365 and Azure with Entra ID Connect. They'll have some flavor of what we now know as hybrid identity, where they're extending that identity out into the cloud with Entra ID Connect. But they may well be using different tools to protect devices. They might have a bit of a Trend Micro over here, Carbon Black. They might have Mimecast over there. They might have firewall and switches with Cisco, or Fortinet might be here, there, and everywhere. So there's going to be a mixture. And how that gets unified into that story is crucially important. Now, a lot of organizations, certainly the one that I work for, Insight, will have teams of consultants and architects, and those teams are usually along the lines of network and infrastructure, public cloud, modern workplace, and collaboration, those sort of principles. And you may have unified comms there as well, so you'll have those pillars. And organizations will come to solutions providers or solutions integrators, in the case of the wonderful Insight where I work, with a specific goal, a specific problem, without looking at that wider picture and how the principles of cyber security fit into all of those principles, all of those pillars. And that is probably one of the first mistakes that organizations make. And it's crucial not to ignore the elephant in the room. What are we doing about cybersecurity? Where are we now? And with the goals that we have to get to here with new modern work cloud technologies and strategies, what is our cybersecurity strategy and posture going to be alongside that to underpin it? The simplest way to approach this, in my opinion, is to think about a particular acronym that has been around for a while, and this is an expanding and growing acronym. It's been widely known as SCI for quite a long period of time. It's now probably, certainly in Microsoft discussions that I've had in recent years, more widely extended to be known as SCIMP. Let's explain each of those, what those letters in the acronym stand for. So in its original form, SCI, or SC and I, it is security, compliance, identity. And more recently, we've added in the two other letters, the M and the P, to include management and privacy, or privacy, however you want to say it. So what does that mean? And the way that I explain the differences of the letters in this acronym and how they relate to each other, I will always explain from a Microsoft standpoint and how each principle relates to a particular tool set. So you can probably do this in the broader sense. You can probably do this across any competitor to Microsoft, but Microsoft is where I sit, where my comfort zone is, and how I will describe it. So let's take the S of security first. And there are exceptions to the rules that I'm going to describe here. For that S, think in broad terms of anything with Defender in front of it. Microsoft Defender for endpoint. So you might think, hey, Peter, you're breaking your rules already, because endpoint surely implies management. Well, yes, it does. But it's also security. The security principles, cybersecurity principles, wrapped into everything that Defender touches. So Defender for endpoint, Defender for identity. So we've got a conflict there. It's not a conflict. It's a coming together of those principles. Broadly speaking, though, I tend to think of the security part of SCIMP in Microsoft terms as anything with Defender in front of it. And I think that's a good place to come from, a good standpoint. The C part is easier, is more black and white. It's got less shades of grey in it, and although it does link to the other principles, and that is compliance. And for that, we can think about Microsoft Purview. Microsoft Purview is all about information governance, information protection, with tools like sensitivity labels, data loss prevention, retention policies, retention labels, and records management. Those are the core features of Microsoft Purview. Now, that compliance story is equally as important as the security part and the identity part. It all comes together to form the overarching cybersecurity principles. Now, in that original acronym of SCI, I often, and I still do, describe the C part as the unloved, underappreciated middle child of that scenario. Organizations seem to find it very easy to decide to implement Defender for this, Defender for that, and they know the importance of having a good identity posture. We'll get to that in a minute and what that means, what the I relates to. But the compliance bit is the part that tends to be considered of lesser importance to organizations for some reason. And that, to me, I rebel against that. I think that's madness, because essentially it's all about data protection, data governance, information, if you like, interchangeable terms. But think about it. When you're thinking about a cyber security posture, you are defending, i.e. security, Defender. You're defending against threats, attacks, breaches. But what does that relate to? What do those malicious actors ultimately want to get their hands on by breaching your defenses? They want your data. They want to get at your data, and they want to encrypt it, ransom it, sell it, all for their own ends. And this is why that C for compliance is crucially important. You can have all of the device and identity protections in place, but if those malicious actors are clever enough, and believe me, they are, clever enough and persistent enough to breach those defenses, they will find a way if there is a vulnerability. And this is not a static position. You don't protect these things and leave them be. Threats and malicious actors are constantly evolving, changing, growing smarter, and AI is in that equation now as well. You better believe that malicious actors are using AI tools and techniques to their advantage to get at what they want. Your data, you better believe they're using that. And they will take every advantage that they can. This is why you should be doing the same. But anyway, I haven't got to the I yet. The I, which is identity. And in Microsoft terms, let's think about that as Entra, and by extension, Entra ID, formerly known as Azure AD. So you need a robust identity in place. You need to decide if you're going cloud only. Very unusual, but not unheard of. A lot of startups are born in the cloud and henceforth will be cloud only. Most organizations that have been going a long time will have some sort of hybrid identity in place, and they will have either password hash synchronization with their Entra ID Connect, pass-through authentication, or they will have ADFS or some form of federation, which is becoming a lot more outdated now, and many organizations are sunsetting their ADFS estates in favor of the easier to manage and the more cost-effective pass-through authentication option. So getting your identity posture, your identity protection, identity governance in place with strong principles of Entra, such as conditional access, MFA being the most basic principle of conditional access. If this happens, do that. So important. Within Entra, also think about things like privileged identity management, using the principles of just in time and just enough access. Crucial to your identity strategy. But these things, the SCI, the security compliance identity, the defender, the purview, the Entra, all come together. And organizations must have that in mind. It's not about budget. Of course it's about budget. It always comes down to money. But this is what frustrates me as a consultant over the past many years of working with clients, with customers. They have a particular budget, but it's important to broaden that story. They will come to me quite often and say, we need to deploy conditional access. That's fine, that's good, but have you thought about your data? Have you thought about your endpoints? And how that is going to come into the story? Oh, no, that's a different team. And that's siloed thinking. Siloed thinking is the opposite of the principles of defense in depth. And that is a crucial tactic to your success in your cybersecurity strategy and therefore posture. Defense in depth is crucial. And that, by definition, means that you need to be thinking of the SCI, not just the S or the C or the I. It's a unified approach. And quite frankly, you need to find the budget. That sounds harsh. That sounds cold and callous and black and white. And it is to a certain extent. But there are always ways that solutions integrators, such as Insight, can help customers and clients to get funding, to get to that position where they can implement these technologies for that robust cyber security posture that is crucial to them. It's not a nice to have. Maybe it's a few years ago it was, but the landscape has changed. Nation states, malicious actors, they're getting more determined by the day, more sophisticated by the day. You better believe they're using AI. So this is a whole nother discussion, but you really need to be thinking of how to bolster your defenses with the newer AI tools that Microsoft has, like Copilot for Security. And this is not something that's going to replace your analysts. That's a common misconception. It's not Pilot, it's Copilot. It's enabling analysts to make better, more informed, quicker decisions, but keeping that human element in place. Because no AI is infallible. It's going to learn, machine learning. but the human factor is going to be important for a very long time. A very long time. I don't think that'll ever go. I hope not anyway. But I'm going off path. That could be a whole other video in and of itself in terms of the AI element of cybersecurity. But it's important to touch upon it. We've not even completed the acronym yet. We have not got to the I. We have got to the I. We've not got to the M and the P part. Now the M is management and ties in with the Defender for Endpoint part of it, because when you think of management, you think about devices, broadly speaking. Devices and or Internet of Things. So management of those devices, whatever they may be. And broadly speaking, devices are going to be computers of some description. They're going to be desktop computers, and they're probably going to be Windows for the most part, bit of Mac OS, maybe a bit of Linux. So how do you manage those devices effectively? Well, it ties into Defender for Endpoint, or outside of the Microsoft world, another product like is that what Carbon Black does? There are so many different ones out there that I can never quite remember which ones are which, because my head is a Microsoft head. I'm learning that. Those are the tools and vendors as I grow into my role. But so we've got Defender for Endpoint, but we've also got Intune for the management of those devices. And what is the difference really? So Intune, broadly speaking, it has compliance policies baked into it to ensure the devices are compliant with how you want devices to be, down to the ability to do certain things. And the Defender for Endpoint is more about the security. It's the modern antivirus, essentially. Think of it in those terms. So management of those devices, what policies and settings you want on those devices for all of your users, and protection of those devices with Defender for Endpoint. And those come together very, very much so in a very unified way. So that's important. Most organizations, most large organizations, are going to have a huge device estate, and they'll be at various different levels of versions and protection. So you might have Windows 10 over here, Windows 11 there, Mac OS this, Mac OS that, iOS here, Android version whatever. And the management of that and keeping those devices as up to date and refreshed is crucial, because with each operating system update or replacement improvement, you better believe there are improved security features baked into those. It's important to get those devices updated as quickly and as effectively as possible to contribute to that defense in-depth posture of cyber security, the overarching. Is it overarching or overarching? I've heard people say that different ways. I tend to prefer overarching, so that's what I'm going to go with. That overarching principle of cyber security sitting above the SCIMP. And then we've got the final one, we've got privacy. Privacy is all about, privacy relates quite strongly to compliance, because you might be familiar with the term Microsoft Prever. Microsoft Prever might still be the name of the tool which manages privacy features. It lives in the compliance portal, the Microsoft Purview portal. It doesn't have its own portal, its own home. So it's very strongly embedded in the compliance world, but it is a thing in and of itself. And Microsoft Prever is all about privacy, risk, policies. It's all about subject access requests. Now, even I get confused about how that differs with certain principles that are in Purview sometimes. I mean, subject access requests, for example, you can pretty much do all of that with a good knowledge and application of e-discovery premium cases and review sets. So the need to have that separate tool still confuses me a little bit. I've talked with Microsoft individuals who've tried to explain it to me at times, and I still don't fully get it. It's something extra than. It's not something that comes with E5 like your eDiscovery Premium does. You have to buy it on top of your E5, so it's another add-on. But it's there, and if you want a tool that is specific for subject access requests, SARS, then that is something that will do that for you. I still maintain that you can do that in near enough the same way with eDiscovery Premium. But eDiscovery Premium is not designed just for SARS. It's about internal investigations. It's about legal investigations and all sorts of different scenarios. And it is well equipped to respond to that, as eDiscovery Premium is a massively sophisticated tool with a whole host of workflow principles built into it. But that is really the acronym that sits underneath that overarching term of cybersecurity in a Microsoft perspective, a Microsoft ecosystem or world, if you like. That's what it's all about. SCIMP, security compliance, identity management protection, Defender, Purview, Entra, Intune, Priva. I'm not sure if it's still called that, because when you look in the compliance portal, it just says privacy management now. I can't find any evidence of the Priva name anymore, so that might be changing. But this is the thing that is important for all good architects and consultants in the Microsoft world to understand: that unified approach, not working in silos. A siloed approach to cybersecurity will fail. It absolutely will fail. So, we've set the scene in terms of that acronym. How can we apply that further into the real world? I'm going to divide that into 3 different categories. I'm going to divide that into people, risk, and data. Data is so important. So what is this all about? You need to know your people, and every organization is only as strong as the people that are fulfilling the various roles in that organization. Those people need the tools to do their job, and they need those tools and devices and functions to be protected with strong cybersecurity principles based on the acronym that we've described and the tools within. Those people need to be educated as well. They need to have the best human defenses that they can possibly have. And organizations need to understand that these people are different. There is no one unique type of identity for a person in any organization. You're going to have different levels of skill, competency, understanding, generational gaps, and this needs to be taken into account. And tooling is important in terms of that education process. It's important that those individuals understand the tools that they have, and any new introduction of tools and processes, like migrating into the cloud, adoption and change is crucial to that. That education and training. They have to understand why this is happening. They have to understand what the tooling is going to do for them and how it's improved from what they had. So they need to know why, they need to know what, and they need to know how. Adoption and change. Massively underrated principles of the story of adopting cloud into an organization, that digital transformation journey. So arm your people with knowledge. Get them into focus groups, into pilot groups, into testing phases, and involve a broad spectrum of personas in that process. Because they will be your champions. They will be your allies. They are the people who need to evangelize this and take it right through from pilot testing into full rollout, into production, into full adoption and change. So your people need to be kept on their toes. It's vitally important, albeit annoying, when those phishing simulation emails come in, and any good organization will have that in some way, shape, or form. It might not be a Microsoft one. There are others out there, but the Microsoft 365 E5 attack simulation profiles, in my opinion, are very strong and very good at testing users on their awareness. Because it's very, very easy in the working day of a person to be focused on what they have to do. And they might just wonder, oh, I need to clear this inbox. I need to get this massive list of unread emails down from 96 down to 0 as quickly as possible. So click, 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 open. And it's the thought process of getting that done as quickly as possible without the due care and attention, due care and consideration. Looking at things like suspicious links, suspicious email addresses, suspicious wording in those emails, and phishing simulation software, such as included in E5, is vital to that story. And there are others out there, things like KnowBe4, for example, one of the industry leaders in that sector. So training and educating your people is crucial to that success. You are only as strong as the weakest link in your chain. And that could be a single individual who clicks on a bad link. And then boom, that malicious actor is in your system, can look to get elevation of privilege, lateral movement, and get to what they ultimately want, your data. We'll come to data in a minute. That's the last one of these three principles: people, risk, and data. So that's the people. The risk is hugely important. Understand your risks. Now, you can do this with tools within Microsoft Purview. You can get a feel for the sort of content that you have with Content Explorer and Activity Explorer. As you grow and you get more presence in the cloud, you can get a feel for the types of data that you have. And with things like DLP and testing DLP policies, you can get a clear view of when users are sharing sensitive data, and you can educate them with policy tips with those tools to understand what and when and how to share certain types of sensitive information, and if they should be doing it at all. So that is the risk part. Understanding the risks is crucial, and that will also be tied into any industry frameworks that you as an organization are obliged to observe and adhere to, or tied to any internal policies that you might have along those lines as well. Things like ISO 27001, Cyber Essentials Plus, more recently in the European Union and beyond. If you're dealing with European Union countries as an organization, NIS2, NIS2. And the clock is ticking on that one, by the way. If you're not aware of NIS2, then you need to be. Look at it. It's crucially important. October this year is when organizations affected by that need to be compliant. So the risk is absolutely key. Understanding that risk and what you need to do to apply effective risk protection is absolutely crucial, alongside educating those people, your assets, people and risk. Finally, data. Know your data. Similar principles apply here. You can look at tools within Purview to understand that data. Understand in Content Explorer the type of content that you have across the services within your cloud products, such as Exchange, Teams, SharePoint, and more. Understand that data. Know the types of data that you've got, the types of sensitive data within, and how to protect that with data protection and governance tooling. Massively important anyway, but even more important if you are looking to become certified in those industry frameworks for compliance. So, and that data, I cannot emphasize just how crucially important, the most important part of the story this is. That is what you ultimately are protecting. You are hardening a big eggshell around that data. That's what you should be thinking of it as. Making sure you've got the hardest, most impenetrable eggshell hardening around that ever-precious data, which is the lifeblood of any organization. If that data is breached, accessed by someone who shouldn't have access to it, lost, leaked, stolen, ransomed, encrypted, sold, then that can lead to loss of production, damage to reputation, fines, maybe even imprisonment in certain circumstances. So, that is my thought process on cybersecurity, that overarching term, and the acronyms that fall beneath it and how they apply to certain Microsoft tooling available to clients. And my own viewpoint, it's a very selfish one. It's a very something I'm accustomed to is the Microsoft world, and I'll get the argument occasionally from customers that, well, we don't want to put all our eggs in one basket, and I kind of get that, but I equally feel that it's a valid argument to have that unified approach to defense in depth, because it's all too easy to, if something is not quite right, not working together, if your Carbon Black is not integrating with your Microsoft whatever, and Mimecast is not quite working alongside Exchange in the way you need it to be, if something's slipped through and gone wrong, you just know that that vendor's going to blame this vendor. So that happens all the time. So from that standpoint alone, my feeling is always that if Microsoft have a tool for that, and it's evolved and proven and accepted, and if it's got a little position in that top right quadrant of the Gartner index quadrant, whatever it's called, then you can trust that, and you should trust that. And that unified approach will save you time, it will save you skills and education, because Microsoft are, make no mistake, Microsoft are a security company. They have not been perceived as such until very recently, but they are a serious player in security and will only continue to grow in that area. And you can trust the Microsoft tooling and methodologies with your cybersecurity strategy and posture. I'm nailing my colors to the mast there, no doubt. And I know I'm biased, but I truly believe that. I truly do believe that. So that is my thought process. I hope you found it useful in terms of breaking down those principles, that overarching term, and those principles of SCIMP and how they relate to those Microsoft tools, and how it is important to bring those all together in a unified defense in-depth approach. If you leave one of those out of the equation, you're not protected. You don't have defense in depth. You got to protect it all. You got to govern it all, regardless of budgets. Find the money, find the funding. It's crucial. Okay, let's wind up the video. I hope you enjoyed that little story that I tried to paint there, the picture that I tried to paint, the story that I tried to tell. I'm passionate about this, you can probably tell. I truly believe what I'm saying when I talk about this. So let me know your thoughts on it. Let me know if you are equally as trusting of the Microsoft unified story of security as I am, or if you favor one particular vendor for one particular flavor of SCIMP that you think they are still stronger, still the industry leader, the best of breed, if you like. So let me know your thoughts, and as you're doing so, as you're commenting on this video, don't forget to give it a like, give it a big thumbs up if you've enjoyed it. If you haven't, give it a thumbs down. That is your prerogative. If you're going to stick around and view more of my content, I would love it if you hit that subscribe button down below as well, and the notifications bell as you do so. Ring that bell so you never miss a new video from me. There is always plenty coming, thick and fast these days. I so enjoy producing content for you, my viewers, my subscribers, and my members. Do consider checking out the join button as well. Click the join button to see the levels of membership that are available to you to support the channel. There's many options. Okay, thank you so much. You all take care now. Remember, defense in depth, be secure, think security always, and you won't go far wrong. Take care. Bye-bye.